Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hari ini saya akan bentang pasal Introduction to Australia. First kali background of country. Australia first inhabitants, the Aboriginal people, are believed to have migrated from some unknown point in Asia to Australia between 50,000 and 60,000 years ago. While Captain James Cook is credited with Australia's European discovery in 1770, a Portuguese possibly first sighted the country, while the Dutch are known to have explored the coastal region in 1640s. Dan sebelahnya tu kita boleh tengok flag of country Australia. Is nation of country. Australia is an island continent and the world's sixth largest country, lying between the Indian and Pacific Ocean. The country is approximately 44,000 from east to west, 3,200 kilometers from north to south, with a coastline 36735 km long. For the administration level, ada tiga. Yang the first one, the federal executive, which is the prime minister and minister. They are the main decision-making body of the Australian government and is responsible for putting federal laws into action. Second one is territory executive government, which is chief minister and territory minister. State and territory executive decide on policy and new laws, including how put state or territory laws into action. And for the last one is local council. Local council collect tax and rates from all property owners and receive grant from federal, state and territory government and spend this on local matter, for example, town planning, rubbish collection, water and sewerage, local road and pest control. Australian import and export. For the import, as we can see all the data here from 2015 to 2020. For the import for 2020 is 267.01 billion US dollar. And for the export for 2020 is 318.29 billion dollars. Next for GNP and GDP, we can see here for 2020 the GNP is 1380.17 billion dollar. As for the per capita is 53730 dollar. And for the GDP for year 2020 is 1330.90 billion dollars. As for the per capita is 51812 dollars. Last for Australian unemployed and inflation rate. For unemployed rate for 2020 is 6.49%. And for inflation rate for 2020 is 0.85% with annual change negative 0.76%.
In Australia, there are a few green economy projects that they had developed. The first is wind turbines. As we know, wind is among the world's fastest growing in energy resources. According to the Global Wind Energy Council, 244 gigawatts of new onshore and offshore wind generating capacity will be constructed globally between 2020 and 2024. For the next 5 years, 60 wind projects worth $33 billion were planned. New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, and South Australia will be investing the most in these projects in the future years. So one of the 5 projects from Australia are the forest wind projects. How does wind turbines works is that with the crucial component of all turbines, the generator, which functions as a wind turbine's dynamo. This component operated by the turbine's rotor blades, and the lamp is a light in someone's home thousands of miles away. Next is the wind energy technique is used to generate electricity or mechanical power. Then the aerodynamic force of the rotor blades, which acts similarly to an airfoils, which converts wind energy into electricity in a wind turbine. The air pressure solely on a single side of the blade increases when wind blows across it, and then the difference in air pressure across the two sides of the blade creates lift and drag. On the back of the nacelle are the anemometers. which the automated speed measuring devices and wind vanes will give wind speed and direction measurements. With data from the pivoting system, yaw motor, installed between the nacelle and the tower can spin the full top half of the turbine, which the rotor blades and nacelle, and therefore it faces straight into the prevailing wind and catches the maximum amount of energy. Brakes are applied to keep the rotors from whirling if the weather is too windy or stormy. Finally, the step-up transformer that converts the electricity to a 50-volt voltage level, allowing it to be efficiently delivered to the power system or to nearby buildings or communities. If the power is sent to the grid, it is transformed to a greater voltage, which 130 kV or more via a local transformer that serves a number of turbines. For the technology contribution in society is job creation. Between 2017 to 2018 and 2018 to 2019, wind energy experienced the fastest growth in full-time equivalent employment, increasing by 60% amount 2020 FTE jobs to 3,240 FTE jobs, and more than twice since 2016 to 2017. Not only that, it is competitively priced, where the cost of generating electricity from wind has decreased dramatically over the last decade, making wind energy the least expensive of all alternative energies. From that, the wind industry now competes with fossil fuel sources of generation on pricing. The cost of utility scale wind energy is predicted to continue to reduce, with new wind farms providing electrical energy at around $50 to $65 megawatts hours in 2020 and below $50 megawatts hours in 2030. And of course, wind energy is environmentally friendly because now it is predicted to enable Australia minimize its green gas house emission by about 3,256,000 tons per year, and expanding wind energy could further lower Australia's GHG emissions. The second green technology is hydroelectricity. In Australia, there are around 120 operational hydropower stations, with Hydro Tasmania's network of power plants and the Snowy Mountains Hydro Scheme in New South Wales producing the majority of the country's hydroelectricity. In 2020, Australia will generate 23.3% of total clean energy and 6.4% electricity. Given the fact that hydro generation increased by 473 gigawatts hour to 14,628 gigawatts hours in 2020, which was at its highest level since 2018. These hydroelectricity plants works by these essential components, begin with the dam. This component increases the reverse level of water, resulting in falling water, and controls the flow of the water as well. In addition, the energy is effectively stored in the reservoir that forms. Then, with the turbines, it spins due to the force of falling water pushing on the blades. So a water turbine is similar to windmill, but instead of wind, it uses falling water to generate energy and converts the kinetic energy of falling water into mechanical energy. Also, the shaft and potentially gears connect the generator to the turbine, allowing the turbine to spin as well. It helps to convert the turbine's mechanical energy into electric energy. The fact that the hydropower generators actually operate similarly to generators in other types of power plants. In the end, the transmission components will conduct electricity from the hydropower plant to residential and commercial buildings. Next, for the contribution of the hydroelectricity is hydroelectricity provide much of the state's electricity. The Tasmanian Integrated Hydropower Scheme harnesses hydro energy from 6 major water catchments and involves 50 major dams, numerous lakes, and 29 power stations with a total capacity of over 2,600 megawatts. In the economic contribution, according to the AEMO step change scenario, the renewable energy sector or jobs might create up to 46,000 people by 2025. Solar-related employment are higher paying and cannot be outsourced. Thus, this rise is supposed to continue because they are a major contributor to Australia's economy. At the same time, this green technology also this type of technology also a renewable and clean source of energy, since Snowy Hydro, the company behind the projects, says any environmental impact will be limited to just only 100 hectares of the 674,000 hectares park. Last but not least, the solar thermal technology. In solar thermal, the sun's power is harnessed to produce electricity using concentrated solar thermal. We call it the CST technology. There is currently only one large-scale solar thermal plant in Australia, a 9.3 megawatts facility at the Liddell coal-fired power station in New South Wales. The linear Fresnel array, which covers 18,490 square meters, is utilized to preheat feed water for the coal-fired power plant. There are several types of CSP technology. First one is parabolic trough systems. It is concentrated via curved trough-shaped reflectors, which are focused onto a receiver pipe. Meanwhile, the pipe holds thermal oil, which is heated before being utilized in a steam generator thermal power block to produce electricity. Secondly, the power tower systems that track the sun and concentrate a significant amount of sunlight or energy into a specific region onto a receiver at the top of the tower using heliostat mirrors. Inside the receiver, a high-temperature fluid, typically molten salts, is heated and utilized to produce steams. And then the third, the thermal energy storage devices, which used to store power until it is needed. And linear Fresnel systems. A vast number of collectors were arranged in rows to focus sunlight onto parallel tube receivers that are placed above them. The long rows of flat or concave mirrors are set flat on the ground and reflect sunlight onto the receiver pipe positioned above them. Lastly, the parabolic dish systems. It reflects solar energy onto a receiver mounted on a structure with a solar or two-axis sun tracking system. A heat engine then generates the accumulated heat. Since the dish can reach extremely high temperature, it makes the technology suitable for use in solar reactor. Moreover, smaller CSP systems can be installed just where electricity is generated. Single dish or engine systems, for instance, can produce 5 to 25 kilowatts per dish and can be implemented in distributed applications. Now, for the contribution of this technology, solar thermal has the lower cost of using it. The cost of solar modules has reduced by more than 75% as a result of recent technological advancements. This means that the power plants are deployed based on their cheapest short-run marginal cost. If a power plant like solar has low marginal cost, it will mostly be dispatched. If a power plant's marginal costs are high, such as coal or natural gas, it will only be dispatched during hours when its dispatch cost is less than or equal to the market price for electricity. Aside from the price reduction, the average size of the house of a household solar unit has also roughly doubled. For society, solar energy has the potential to provide up to 60% of Australia's energy needs at home, significantly reducing greenhouse gas emission and decreasing dependency on fossil fuels. And for the environment contribution, the solar thermal is clean energy because the public willingness to exploit Australia's solar as resources is strong. With 90% of people preferring more solar energy, and as technology develops, it is expected to become a more cost-effective energy source.
Introduction to Blue Economy. Blue economy can be defined as the sustainable contribution and conservation of living renewable resources in the marine and freshwater ecosystem, as well as adjacent coastal and inland ecosystems to food and nutrition and poverty alleviation. Prelude FLNG from Shell Global Australia. So the Prelude FLNG or Floating Liquefied Natural Gas project in Australia is one of the projects that are used to boost the blue economy in Australia. Although it was not deployed yet, but this is one of the good projects which can give a boost for the blue economy in Australia. The Prelude Floating Liquefied Natural Gas project is located in the Ross Basin off the coast of Western Australia. Is one of the largest FLNG plant in the world. The Prelude FLNG involved 14 subsea rises and 6 umbilical. The FLNG vessel housed 3 LNG processing trains to treat the gas and liquefy it to negative 162 degrees Celsius. It also features 7 offshore footless marine loading arms, including 4 LNG loading arms and 3 liquefied petroleum gas LPG loading arms. The estimated operational life of the Prelude FLNG is estimated at 25 years old. Next is Prelude operation. So the main task of the floating liquefied natural gas plant is to harvesting the natural gas from the seafloor. So the liquefied natural gas is generated by removing water and other contaminants from natural gas and chilling it to negative 165 degrees Celsius. Condensate, a light hydrocarbon similar to diesel, is also created throughout the process. Following processing, the gas is loaded into carrier boats and sent to customers all over the world. 3 infield support vessels offer security monitoring, emergency standby, and product transfer assistance to Prelude. So in the first picture, we can see the technical component of Prelude subsea infrastructure. And the first picture is the anchor chains. The Prelude floating liquefied natural gas facility is connected to a series of anchor chains which secure the facility to the seafloor. On the second picture is the flexible risers and flow lines. There are four 12-inch flexible risers below the Prelude facility. Liquefied natural gas products are transferred to Prelude by four 12-inch flow lines. Next, on the third picture, is the subsea system hardware. The subsea system is made up of hardware that includes wellheads, subsea Christmas trees, production manifolds, and riser-based manifolds. While on the fourth picture is the umbilical. The steel tube umbilical provides power and hydraulics to control the subsea system hardware. Next is the contributions of the Prelude floating liquefied natural gas facility to the Australia. The social contributions of the Prelude is a higher social status of Australian citizens since higher rate of employment due to these projects. More advanced facility can be invested, resulting in better life quality of the Australians. The investment will come from the profits from these projects. In the environmental contributions is the environmental conservation. The environmental conservation can be done by the detailed analysis on the spot chosen for the LNG harvesting and also the monthly assessment of the effect of the lights and noise to flora and fauna, which give a better recommendations in order to conserve the environment. In the economy contributions, the Prelude floating LNG projects will contribute $45 billion to Australia's economy throughout the project lifetimes, which $12 billion will allocate for tax. This will also give and develop long-term employment prospects for the Australians. And throughout these projects, it will existing employment in construction and etc. at Perth to support the floating sector, which will be beneficial and creating lots of jobs for the Australians, especially for those who live at Perth. The next project done for improving the blue economy in Australia is the Cooperative Research Centres, CRC. CRC are significant entities for Australian scientific research and are in Australian federal government program. So this program will fund into 6 key factors especially in manufacturing technologies, information and communication technology, mining and energy, agribusinesses and rural manufacturing, environmental science and technology, and medical science and technologies. So how the CRC works is the Blue Economy CRC paved the way for innovative, commercial, viable. Next is how CRCs works. So the Blue Economy CRC paved the way for innovative, commercially viable and sustainable offshore development and new capabilities that result in significant increase in renewable energy output, seafood production and jobs, transferring the future of Australia's traditional blue economy. So this goal will be met through the CRC research, innovation, demonstration, knowledge transfer, and training initiative. The CRC's technology research teams, which will be finalized in cooperation with the organization, is the way on how they increase the blue economy in Australia. Lastly is the contributions of the CRC to Australians. So the social contributions of the CRC is a better quality of life due to research of technology, which is the Australians which balancing in conserve the nature and making people life easier. While in the economy, CRC contributes as which are giving the influence to the Australian economy through the research programs. A varied spectrum of CRCs has results in considerable consequences both within and outside of CRC industry of operations. And over 8.58 billions in consequences has been realized, which is 49%, with a further $5.87 billion impacts in expected between 2020 and 2017, and this is due to the variety of the circumstances. Lastly, the contribution to the environment is first by the reducing the greenhouse gas emission from the products or technology that have been used in Australia. And secondly is to protect the environmental areas, which by the research from the CRC, better recommendations can be given in order to protect the sea areas and all the areas which are rich in environmental values.
What is Sustainable Development Goals? The Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) are a set of 17 interconnected global goals intended to serve as a blueprint to a better and more sustainable future for all. The United Nations General Assembly (UNGA) established the SDGs in 2015 with the goal of achieving them by 2030. They are listed in an UNGA resolution known as the 2030 Agenda or Agenda 2030. The SDGs were developed as the future global development framework to replace the Millennium Development Goals, which expired in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals contain of 17 goals, which are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice and strong institutions, and partnerships for the goals. How well is Australia's performance in SDGs? From the overall perspective, 12 out of the 56 indicators used in the analysis were determined to be on track to meet the 2030 targets, while 23 were found to be off track, 11 required a breakthrough, and 10 more needed to be improved. The 2020 report builds on the targets and measurements of success established in 2018, which gave Australia a score of 6.5 out of 10. This score indicates that Australia's performance across all 17 goals is average. To be more detailed, according to the United Nations Association of Australia 2019, Australia is doing extremely well in SDG 1, which is no poverty, SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. Meanwhile, according to the Transforming Australia SDG Progress Report published in November 2020, Australia performed well in health, which is SDG 3, and education, which is SDG 4. Australia's achievement in Sustainable Development Goals can be seen from a few goals. First is SDG 3, which stands for Good Health and Well-being. This goal aims to achieve universal health coverage that seeks equitable access of healthcare services to all men and women. SDG 3 has 13 targets and 28 indicators to measure the progress. The Australian government is dedicated to ensuring that all Australians have access to a world-class health system based on universal health coverage, hospital assistance, a focus on preventative health and mental health, and also investment in medical research. The healthcare system in Australia is based on the principle of universal health coverage, which ensures that everyone has access to timely, high-quality health services that are administered without discrimination and address the various needs that people have throughout their lives. Medicare is a universal public health insurance program that gives free and subsidized access to public hospitals and medical services. Medibank Private Limited (MPL) is a leading supplier of private health insurance in Australia, which associates its business operation directly with SDG 3. This organization provides quantifiable statistics on the activities or outcomes of many health and well-being programs, indicating their contribution to SDG 3. The largest international airport in Australia, which is Sydney Airport (SYD), also strives to manage health and safety concerns, foster a strong safety culture, and provide a work environment that safeguards the health and well-being of all airport users. Goal is SDG 4 or Quality Education Goal. This goal is mainly aims to provide high quality and easily accessible education as well as additional opportunities to children and young people. There are 10 targets under this goal, which measured by 12 indicators. Australia's emphasized the importance of high quality education in guaranteeing equal access to opportunity and social well-being for all people, regardless of their background. To increase access to quality education and maximize opportunities via learning, the Australian government collaborates with state and territory government, the education industry, and civil society. Australia's educational system is extensive, modern, diversified, and equitable. The focus of early childhood education and childcare, which includes childcare and preschool, is on the learning and development requirement of children. In the year preceding the start of school, everyone has access to preschool education. Universal primary and secondary education is available, with compulsory school attendance until the age of 16 and gender equity in literacy and numeracy outcomes at the conclusion of elementary school. Northern Star Resources Limited (NST) matched its sustainable vision with SDG 4. Through the Clontarf Foundation, it supports education projects with community education accounting for 39% of its 1.5 million community commitment. In Indonesia, Australia is collaborating with the Ministry of Education and Culture to figure out what works and what does not seem to when it comes to improving literacy and numeracy in the classroom and at the school level. Last but not least is SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, which aims to ensure the economic sector of every country provides the necessary need for its citizens to have a good life regardless of their background, race, and culture. SDG 8 has 12 targets and 17 indicators. Australia's economy is doing great with the country's economy growing for the 27th year in a row. Australia's macroeconomy policy framework, in combination with a large natural resource endowment, a flexible labour market, and a competent workforce, has established the groundwork for long-term economic development and high employment level. In the workplace, Australia has a strong system of protection for workers' rights, entitlement, and safety, which is supported by a national minimum wage, a fair bargaining process between employers and employees, and a set of wages and conditions that are universally applied. QBE Insurance Group Limited addressed SDG 8 through insurance products that encourage decent work, such as workers' compensation and accident and health solutions. The Australia is revising the legislation to reduce barriers to crowd-sourced equity funding as part of the National Innovation and Science Agenda, making it easier for innovative small enterprises to raise equity to develop and market their ideas.
In summary, we can conclude that the efforts Australia put to encourage the evolution industry of marine, which is socially, economically and ecologically exploit from the ecosystem of the ocean, is really high. As a macroeconomic concept, the blue economy get concerned with each side of global and national governance, economic growth, environmental conservation, along with the international communication and sustainable evolution, which made Australia focus more on the blue economy. Currently, Australia is ranked 38 of 162 countries. In short, acting and thinking blue makes sense a lot for the blue planet after all, which made Australia believes to focus on the blue economy as the idea can be seen as a project, policy and idea for Australia.